I'm Zoe Gilbertson. So I'm a designer, educator, and I guess sustainability consultant, working at the intersections of fashion, farming, and fibre. And I've been involved in sustainable fashion for about 20 years. And in that time, the production of fossil fuel-based fibres and fast fashion has increased exponentially. In the 90s, I knew it was bad. But if we look back now at the 90s, that level of consumption, I think, was probably manageable for the planet, just about. But the underlying forces underneath the fashion system, such as capitalism, individualism, dualism, disconnection from nature, etc., I personally think that it will never be sustainable. So yeah, we all know this. We're in a time of crises, multiple interlocking crises, climate change, biodiversity loss, war, etc. That will only get worse. And I think every discipline needs to deconstruct, decolonize, and rebuild itself with the aim of creating a new future, something more compatible with Earth systems. And as a poster child of capitalism, fashion, sort of my area, is one of the worst offenders, and as a result needs to undergo the most radical change. So degrowth, not green growth, underpins my work. I want to create building blocks for a post-capitalist society. What that is, nobody knows. None of us can know. But what I do know is that we can't continue with the current system, what we're doing now. So just wanted to give you that frame to my thoughts and where I'm coming from. So it's possible that massive technological developments in energy production may provide us with a clean source of energy, but it's a big but. We don't know that. It's looking fairly unlikely, I would say. I mean, 50-50 whether the energy is going to come through for us or not. So it's also arguable in some quarters that we're transitioning to a mineral economy now, away from a fossil fuel-based economy. And some argue that there are not enough minerals and resources in the world to support a transition to renewable energy, or if there are, it's so destructive to extract them that makes things untenable. And again, it's currently a fairly niche conversation, but I am following what I believe in. As Václav Havel said, hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. So on that, I have come to understand it's not possible to fix a broken fashion system, so we need to create a new one. I'd like it system based on care, cooperation, integration with nature. We're a planet of not just 8 billion people, but 1 trillion living entities, and all are entitled to care and consideration. So informed by a system view, these principles underpin my work. I believe networks and relationships like this is brilliant. It's a network, it's relationship building, ecosystems. We create a really important to balance and nourish one another. I've formed a small UK bast fibre network, similar to this, where we a small group of interested parties, we're all committed to reigniting small-scale production of textile fibres through a regenerative and a collaborative lens. And I invite anyone here to join us if you're behind those kind of aims, because I understand we all come from different perspectives. Everybody does all of the time, and that small-scale lens might not be your perspective. I want to support newly developing UK textile practices to be more cooperative, more collaborative and distributive. So distributing the wealth, and so distributing the ownership as well, not just having big investment into big companies. It's like, how do you distribute the wealth and the value and the benefits of across a wider range of people? because currently everything is very much siloed into the 1%, and we need to find ways to distribute that down. Low energy and local leads us to bioregional place source systems. So we're still working out what this means, and it's a live inquiry. But I'm looking at how can we create the resources, the materials that we need in a place, so within a region, rather than using energy to transport materials across the world from other places. And also, you know, if the world does become more unstable, it's going to be much harder to ship things around. So I'm really place focused and bioregionally focused. And I also think it's possible for people to have lifestyles that use natural materials, less energy and resources. But it's not an easy transition. But I do think it can be beautiful, and we all need to sort of hold on to this. And changing behavior is fundamental. So we need research and projects that help people change through experiential practice, to help them engage with these sort of fairly difficult changes that are going to have to come through people's lifestyles, or may have to come. We don't know. We may manage to carry on like we are doing now, but I don't know. Somehow I doubt that. So in the UK, as the home of the Industrial Revolution, we owe the world an appropriate response. Oh, sorry, I've just realized I've gone over 7 minutes. Is it okay to keep going? I've got a couple more slides, or do you want to stick to 7?
Sorry, no, please keep going.
Okay, sorry. So I want to help develop UK textile sufficiency, and it makes sense to help support regenerative farming and local livelihoods. So flax and hemp can support supply chains, as you all know this, I'm sure. Phase out plastic and chemicals is the key thing. So in the UK, we've got pretty decent small scale wool supply chains. We can manufacture some wool products, but we cannot make linen. Most linen hemp fabrics are made in China. The flax and hemp might be grown in Europe, but then it's part processed and shipped to China for spinning and processing into yarn. So like France and Belgium, the UK is suitable for growing bast fibers. We were experts at this hundreds of years ago, but we've lost all the knowledge, the machinery, and the culture as well to support this. So this is also something we need to consider, is how do we rebuild culture as well as capacity and machinery. So I'm doing this work to support local bioregional projects. And there are a few, really interesting projects already going on in this. There's a UK flax project working in Plymouth with local communities to try and create small scale processing facilities. Simon Cooper at Flaxland, who I think you may have had, I'm not sure if he's come to speak to you. He's a huge source of knowledge. And then there's Rosie and Nick at Fantasy Fibre Mill, who are developing small scale machinery using old and new techniques to go just above the craft level for processing. So there are 16 processing steps to get from plant to yarn with bast fibres. So can we do this at farm scale? That's what I'm trying to work out. So in Taproot Farms in Nova Scotia, Canada, she has developed some small scale machinery for rippling, breaking, scutching and heckling. But the next steps are up for grabs. There's a great project called Flaxmobile, which is educating farmers, going from place to place to support this development. But it's still really early stage, and there's lots of people trying to figure out, can we do this small scale machinery to support farm scale production, bioregional production, rather than having to go for the 5 million setup for the scutching mills and the spinning mills at a really, really large industrial scale. And it's still a big question. I don't know the answer to that. So I've just been awarded a Churchill Fellowship to research in this space. So I will be going to Europe to look for knowledge, small-scale machinery, cooperative efforts, all sorts really. And I'm really interested in homegrown linen, but also natural building materials, paper, packaging materials, oils, all of this stuff, but from a sort of simple on-farm processing perspective. And I want to create open source networks of bioregional cooperation. So, you know, we're not static in place, we share knowledge across networks, but for the benefit of local place building. So my fellowship aims are to ascertain the appropriate scale of machinery, look at spinning machinery. I think we need to develop new spinning machines for bast fibers. If we had them, they went to China. Just don't think they exist anymore. And I want to explore options to integrate fiber and textiles into bioregional production, including integration into food and building material supply chains, because textiles, we really don't need more textiles, but we do need food, we do need building materials. And if textiles can become a byproduct of other sectors, I think it puts us in a much better place, because really there's enough clothing in the world, but I think long term we need to figure out how we can make it in a more sustainable way. So yeah, I also want to understand, potential of material outputs, what's needed, and different needs for each bast fiber, and also calculate metrics, because I think metrics for communication purposes can really help people understand things. And also, how do we make textile and natural material production enjoyable so that people want to participate and want it to become part of their livelihoods? I think that's a big question. So yeah, I would love to hear any of your thoughts on all of this. If you have any ideas on where I should visit, any connections or any comments, if you think it's crazy or untenable, yeah, let me know. Thank you.